we decided to start looking for a warehouse because there's so many warehouses in Tulsa. It seemed like there's got to be a place that we can get. And so we looked around.
Is it like a Rust Belt situation where like they used to all be active?
Yeah, and actually like there's still a lot of active, like, I mean, way less than there was. Like there's these huge, we just shot a video in this giant steel factory that hasn't been working since they built downtown, because they essentially built this warehouse to start churning out steel and build downtown, and then it's just been sitting there. Our place, who knows what it was originally, but the people before us were making hot tubs and countertops, because we found we made stages in our place because they have all these big tables where they were making just sheets of whatever that material is.
When you and go look at it for the first time, do you get like the full history, or are you slowly sort of discovering these things as you go?
We walk in and it's a total mess, and it was completely perfect. We were like, we'll take it.
Like it was like abandoned with all the shit inside?
They left all the stuff and they bailed. They quit paying. I think the company went bankrupt and they just bailed. And so the people that own the building just left all the stuff in there. And I think they probably figured somebody would come in, have something to say about the environment, and then they would change it. But we loved it. So we said, what are you doing with all the stuff? And they said, well, nothing. And we said, perfect. We'll take it.
I'm imagining this like 80s movie montage of you guys cleaning and decking it out. Like it's such, like growing up, that was such the dream, right? Of just like someday moving into some like giant warehouse, or like moving into the Ghostbusters firehouse or something.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah. It was the Ghostbusters like show up to check out that firehouse, you know, and it's completely wrecked, and they're like, we love it, we'll take it. That's the same thing that happened to us. And so our friend Mark, who is in I don't know if you've seen our video we put out a double video for 2 songs from our record. He ends up being the main character, but he's a buddy of ours, and he kept hanging out with us, and he was like, we got to wash this place. This place is unhealthy, because when they make the material using the resin and all that stuff to make the tubs, there's all this excess powder that's just everywhere.
So you had already been there for a while.
Yeah, we loved it. We're like, this powder is amazing. Like texturally, it's everything we want.
This death powder on the walls.
Yeah, we loved it. We're like, I don't want to get rid of it yet, you know. And then finally one day he's like, this is it. That's it. Like, we're going to get a power washer, and we're gonna start. Like, we power washed the whole thing. He did actually. Like he was like it was like he pulled out a scalpel, you know. He was like,
it's like Michelangelo.
Yeah, it was an artistic expression from him, and he power washed the whole thing, and then we went and got like a clear sealant and just sealed up everything, so anything that was left there would get stuck to the wall.
Why did you need such a big space?
Because where we live, there's tons of big spaces. The place we're at now, it's like it's in between a place that's like an ironworks company. Yeah. They're melting the place, and then the place to the other side of us is sandblasting, and so they're making tons of noise. And then the people behind us is this giant place called Port City, and they're making they're doing some type of steel work, and everybody's making noise over there. So it ended up, and we didn't even think about that part of it. But as we were there, and we started thinking like, are we being too loud or whatever? And everybody around us reassured us that we could be as loud as we want.
Yeah, you found the perfect situation to make a lot of noise.
Yeah, it's zoned commercial heavy.
So, I mean, it functions primarily as a practice space?
Yeah, we can kind of do anything there. We've shot videos in there. We've recorded in there. Nathan, who you just met here, he's a painter, so he has like he's got a pretty good sized section zoned to Nathan.
The Nathan zone.
The Nathan zone. And then there's these areas out back that were just kind of like dilapidated, and the roof's off, and it feels great. So we kind of have a courtyard. We might even greenhouse that, you know.
It's almost like a factory situation, right? I mean, it's like having like a commune or something. You guys are slowly...
Yeah, it feels like, I think in my mind I've always wanted to like work at a factory, and so like being able to work at a factory but not.
Well, I meant the factory. I meant
clock
the
in at
factory
6 a.m.
like either Andy Warhol or Manchester. Like just like a big.
Those
it's like
clubs.
A communal space, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we found it, and it was like really cheap, and so it was almost like we couldn't do anything about it. We had to rent it, and we've been there 3 years, and we love it.
What's the I was gonna say, what's the scene like? Is there a scene in Tulsa?
Yeah. Tulsa's got everything really in general terms. It has like there's garage rock, there's garage rock bands that are coming out of there. This band Planet What, they tour a lot, and they're kind of that garage world. Sometimes bad at genres, but then there's like a lot of singer-songwriter. There's country. There's like some jazz stuff. Yeah. There's and I'm friends with like all these different worlds all intermingle, and we're all buddies. And Nathan will play drums and like any one of our friends' bands. There's always something going on at any given night.
Is it a case because it's less like obviously it's less dense in terms of populace than it is like here, but it's also less dense in terms of like just the sheer number of artists and bands that everybody's sort of helping each other out.
Yeah, and it's it's like more affordable there.
Yeah.
You can get away with really taking your art like further than you could if you had to work several jobs, and for better or worse, who knows, maybe taking your art too far is maybe I need a couple jobs before I'm given the reins to do whatever I want. But we are given that freedom.
I've been out here for probably like 15 years at this point. I'm jealous of the sort of ability to take your time with things.
Yeah. You got all the time in the world.
The closest I've ever been to Tulsa was I spent 2 days in Oklahoma City.
Okay. Yeah.
Which what are your thoughts on Oklahoma City?
I like Oklahoma City.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a Tulsa boy because I grew up in a small college town in between the two cities, but my family's all from Tulsa, so I was always going to Tulsa. So I'm more a Tulsa person than an Oklahoma City person. I got a lot of friends in Oklahoma City, and there's good stuff going on there too.
So the reason I was out there, I was out there to interview Wayne Coyne. Which is like one of like one of like 5 reasons you go to Oklahoma City from New York.
Absolutely.
And it was funny because we were doing a video show, so we hired a couple of people locally just to like freelance video people, and we walk in and they're like, "Hi, Wayne." He's like, "Hi." Like if you're there, like other. If you do freelance video in Oklahoma City, you're either
Wayne.
You're either there to do the Flaming Lips, or everything, like basically everything else is religious stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that going on. I mean, there's like people we work with. They'll do stuff for churches because they'll pay you more than we would. That's interesting. I love that you went there for that. That's a good way to see Oklahoma City, is through Wayne's eyes.
Did you feel growing up like you were, I don't know, different? That you were kind of like a, freaky rock and roll music dude?
Yeah, I've always been comfortable with being a little bit different. And earlier, I feel like I came to a place where I realized where I could pinpoint maybe why that was. Yeah. Like, why am I okay with being different? And I wish I could remember what that was. It was like, oh, it's that. And no, I can't remember it.
Was it a good place, though, to kind of explore some of those things? I mean,
yeah.
Obviously things have changed in the last 10, 15 years with the internet and everything else, but
yeah, then the internet's brought everything closer, because like growing up I had cousins on the West Coast and they would get stuff before we would, so we would go visit them and come back with vans. Nobody had vans, and then the internet comes along and everybody can get them just as fast. Music comes out everywhere at the same time. As far as like in the small world, the bigger the scale gets, that stuff was getting pushed out, I'm sure, at the same time. Record store would get the same records at the same time as the other stores, but on the small scale, like in our world where we're on like the level that we're at, it helps us having the internet because everybody gets it at the same time. So that gap is closed for sure. There's a cultural there's still a cultural gap, you know, between the middle of the country and then the coast for sure. But some of that is maybe prideful because like we're not going to change. And I'm okay with that, like to an extent, if as long as it's about certain things, you know, maybe the way you're cooking food or whatever. I don't know. I think it's important for us to be there because it's good to keep in communication with people. I think it's good to like not necessarily isolate all the certain types of people in one place and then everybody else is here. The fact that we're there, we know people that go up and down the spectrum, socially, politically, romantically.
There's probably sort of like an understanding in a situation like that where once you get to a certain level that you're going to just like pack up and move, right? I mean, that's just like how things have sort of traditionally gone. I mean, you know, Flaming Lips obviously are a very kind of rare example of things working otherwise.
Yeah, they stayed home. And for me, staying home, it's like when we're gone and traveling, all I want to do is go home. I don't want to go to Los Angeles or New York or Chicago or Austin. I want to go to Tulsa.
You guys were touring a lot for a while there. I mean, you toured for like a year straight at one point.
Yeah, we've had some long trips.
So, what point does it really occur to you that this is something that you could actually really pursue as a life?
Probably like the first time anybody responded positively to us doing anything. It was like, oh, we could do it, let's do it. And it probably takes that type of mindset in a way to just like continue doing something that really there's no end in sight, you know.
Literally the first time somebody was like, this isn't terrible, you're like, all right,
we got it, let's go
forever now.
That's all you needed.
How long has the band actually been going for?
We've been a band since our first record came out in 2013 or 2012.
I mean, I guess it doesn't feel like that long ago, but actually,
I know, isn't that weird? Like, I saw something that said 2008, and I was like, oh yeah, that was like a couple of years ago, and it's 10 years ago now.
It seems like the last couple of years things have really started to pick up for you guys.
Yeah, and it's all just like keep going. I think the main thing is rather than, you know, making sure like worrying about quickness, it's more about just like continuing and keeping on whichever path you're on.
When you're kind of in the middle of it, do you have any way of really contextualizing that? I mean, you know, like I can tell you like, oh yeah, you guys really sort of came across my radar in the last couple of years, and it seems to me like the trajectory has really ramped up recently. Does it feel like that from the inside?
There's been different moments throughout our, like even early on, it was like when we played a couple. Our first show was in the house that like me and one of the other guys lived in. All of our friends came and they were like, what? You know, we're like, well, we already got this other show booked, so we might as well do that. And so
what does what mean in this case? What does that reaction mean? What the fuck is this thing?
Nobody was expecting us to be Broncho, I guess. They had no idea what it was, because we're all doing multiple different things at that point, in different bands that sounded different than really what this band sounds like.
Was this more sort of straightforward, or?
No, this was more just real wild. Like, we came from just a different world. Like, I did some singer-songwriter stuff.
Okay. You're doing like almost like folky stuff.
Not totally folky, but like I did stuff like that, and then I played in a band called Starlight Mints.
Poppy, like Beach Boys sort of stuff almost.
And then started doing Broncho, and that was just like loud, show-wise anyway, real loud, short, kind
more
of
punky than before.
Yeah. And I had done that when I was younger, but then like to invite people to our house and just like crank everything way up and just be yelling made people go, huh?
They thought I was past this point in my life. Like, I'd gotten some of that out of my system.
And I was having so much fun with it that I didn't even I wasn't prepared for anybody to not get it. But I think maybe that was a moment where everybody was like, oh, this is cool. I just don't know how to react to it. So from there, it was like, okay, cool, let's just keep doing it.
How does that happen? I mean, how do you sort of take an entirely different direction? Is it the matter of all these people coming together, or is this kind of a conscious decision on your part?
Yeah, I think I'm I have different personalities, like songwriting wise.
Yeah, you have different itches you need to scratch.
Yeah. I kind of like, I used to say I'm a schizophrenic writer, but I'm not sure if that's offensive to say anymore. So, but that's the way I feel. I can kind of be all over the map. But Broncho, all of our 4 records, they seem like they're coming from the same spirit. They're just like a snapshot of where we are artistically during that span when we make the record. So each record kind of has its own, it's almost like its own era of the life of that character. The first record's like this one person, and it's the same person. He's like kind of maybe meeting some new friends and makes a second record, and then that person's like hanging out, traveling, meeting new people.
I love that this is like purely hypothetical, but obviously like this is you and this is the band to some degree.
Yeah, it's like it's probably 100% true. Yeah. And also it feels comical enough to say.
Do you feel weird talking about that entirely in the first person, of sort of describing this hypothetical person as you and as having lived your experiences?
Sometimes it's the easiest way for me to really talk about what's going on with us. And then I feel like in some ways I still haven't fully, I'm still in 10 years I'll probably be able to explain more.
You're processing.
I'm still processing, and I'll be able to dissect what I was thinking and what moved us to a different place on this record as opposed to that.
Obviously you found success with this band, but are you somebody who needs to continually have other projects on the back burner, work on other things and scratch those other itches at the same time? Or is this scratching all of the necessary itches at the moment?
Yeah, currently this is like perfect. I can do everything I need and feel good. There might be I'm sure there'll be a time when I want to do something else, and there's things I'm interested. Like I write a lot, just like come up with stuff and record it in some way, either just through voice memo or get it put down somewhere where I can come back to it if I need. I have done some scoring, and I've always loved listening to orchestral music and film scores. Last of the Mohicans is one of my favorites. But I could see that somewhere in my trajectory of at least like splashing down in that world for a minute and still going this way. There's nothing like playing rock and roll though when it's just feeling right and you're with 3 people that make you feel good about it.
Do you feel that sonically or aesthetically that there's something that you need to adhere to within the context of this band? I mean, obviously it changes from record to record. You at least have an idea of what defines a Broncho record.
Yeah. Honestly, I think as long as our songs don't get too long, we're okay.
So not too jammy is kind of...
Yeah, it's like keep it tight, get in and get out. That's part of like the secret so far that to us is like getting in and out and just keep going.
So who is the hypothetical person? Who is that person on this new record?
I don't know that yet, but I could say that if we're talking about like what is the record talking about? Where are we coming from on it?
Yeah, we're talking about this sort of like, again, relatively short life cycle of this person.
Yeah.
So what are the things that are informing?
Right. So, I mean, coming out of the last record was kind of talking about, it almost seemed like it was dealing with the next progression of life where there's like more relationships going on, like we talk about marriage at one point in a song, and then maybe this is like we've gone through that, and now we're talking about maybe moving on to all the things that one has to deal with in an adult life.
You're talking about like reality.
Yeah, maybe this one's more reality based.
Like being confronted with life. I mean, because it's not a political record, but I mean, I guess that's another kind of form of confrontation with reality. Yeah,
we're not necessarily being like trying to express any type of view other than like here's a record. We're coming out of a time when a lot of things are being put out there of actions people have taken, and a lot of them are pretty bad, because the bad stuff gets the most coverage. And we were going to name the record Bad Behavior, and then we were going to name it Coke, because that seemed to be the funnier title, and then it seemed to be the more expensive title. And so then we thought, well, caffeine-free Diet Coke, and it's like, oh, that could be even more expensive.
Were you trying to get sued? Was that the plan?
Yeah, and so then we're like, all right, Bad Behavior, it sums up what's going on here. But I like how ambiguous bad behavior, the word bad is,
Yeah.
Because bad, for us growing up, became good, you know? It's like, that's bad. That's bad. You're bad, you know?
Michael Jackson really.
Yeah, Michael Jackson like changed the word for everybody, definitely for me. And so it gives us the ability to be ambiguous in what it is we're doing, what we're talking about. Like, what's good to someone can be viewed as bad to a certain other person. So in some ways, this record's almost what we're titling it, and the image we're showing is like bad to a certain type of person. Cherries in a tongue is bad to like some people, and to us it all looks good.
I read you somewhere talking about it, and insofar as like it is political at all, and insofar as it is a reaction to something sort of like broader external force, it seemed like the thing that really stuck with you was sort of the 24-hour cable news cycle.
Oh yeah.
That, like in a weird roundabout way that had an impact on the writing of this record.
Yeah, it was all on really while I was in my downtime moments of like, okay, I got some time to chill at home. I'm really
between
gonna
tours,
chill
between records.
hard. Yeah, like we can't record right now. The studio's not open. We're not on tour. I got enough money to get me through the month. Let's watch some news. You know.
So your idea of like laying back and like chilling was to watch CNN?
Yeah, it was like the only channel I got on my Apple TV, and so it was like it was the only live channel I could get, and so I watched a lot of news. Yeah, just you kind of take all that in, and at some point it starts entertaining, and then it's like, shit might be fucked up here. Wait, hold up a second. I thought I was chilling. Shit seems fucked. And then you make a record, and then you call it bad behavior, and you look back, and it's like it must have been all that time watching TV.
When you're writing these songs, like how abstract are they to you?
I like to take time taking stuff in and not really have to make a decision when I'm taking it in, whether it is anything, whether it's this or that, or throw it in a category.
So this is like you like recording voice memos.
Yeah, it's like I just want to take in the whole thing and not necessarily put it anywhere yet. It's like I feel like if I can just have it all in there, and when the time's right, and when I need to start like actually saying something on a song rather than like the mumble through the writing process. Through that process, certain words will come out, and it's probably based on stuff I've been taking in over the last few years. And if it's funny enough, then it sticks, and it works, and it makes sense with other stuff, then it stays. And then through that, it's like we start figuring out a theme for the whole thing in general.
If it's funny enough, are the songs funny to you?
Yeah.
So that was like a very like Joe Pesci, like Goodfellas.
Yeah, I feel like all I'm ever trying to do is like write a joke. Yeah, I feel like some of my favorite songwriters are like some of my favorite comedians. I feel like Bob Dylan tells a pretty good joke. He might tell the best jokes.
When you have this downtime between tours, between records, and you're writing these songs, the time sort of comes, everybody comes together, it's time to start working on the record in earnest. At that point, you start circling around this kind of broader idea of what defines the record.
This is a time where everything starts like collectively getting together and starts to make a little bit more sense. I think the main thing and why it's hard to fully explain where we're coming from, or maybe what we're trying to say, we like to keep a very open mind as to the whole thing. Because part of it is like we just got to get a record done, and then and then the other part is like, oh yeah, we got to finish some lyrics. And through that, it's like certain themes start coming out, and it's like on this record in general, like everything, there's some songs that I had written a while back that didn't make the last couple of records, and they just happened to like totally make sense with this batch of songs and this whole idea of people behaving badly. And so it was just the type of thing where it just worked, and we got this song's about family values. It's like that one worked perfectly on this. Weekend made total sense because it feels like we're talking about doing something bad, although we never quite say what it is because we're not sure what we did. Because lots of times it's like you're in trouble and you don't know why. It's like, I'm just being myself. Why am I in trouble?
It's that thing of your parents like telling you you're in trouble, and you don't want to blurt out the first thing you think you're in trouble for. So you're like, I don't know, but I guess it's bad. It must be bad if I'm getting this much attention for it. Dealing with when you're like channeling CNN maybe more indirectly this kind of like broader, like the really horrible political climate. Obviously, like these things are like very front of mind.
Right.
Why not approach them more directly? Is it important to have music that people, like, regardless of where they're coming from, can project their own ideas onto?
Yeah, I like giving people room to take. So if someone's like, you know, all I want to do is listen to a record. I want to listen to a rock record or whatever. I want to hear
everything's shitty. Let me find some escapism or something.
Yeah, so you put in things that are going to be ambiguous enough that the people that don't want to be preached to can relax, and the people that might catch something in a certain way that's like they were feeling the same thing, they might pull a message out of it. They might be like, oh yeah, people have been doing that. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, and I'm really bad at currently being able to tell you an example specifically on the record, but I think it's a mixture of taking care of everybody's needs. Yeah. You know, you don't want to be, and in some ways we probably could be more marketable to one specific set of people if we were very blunt about exactly what it is we believe and what we're trying to express. But I guess we're trying to bring people together, more diverse people. And probably a huge part of that is being from where we're from and living in Oklahoma, because it cuts a lot of people out if we're being like strictly one way. But if we can be a little bit more open to the whole thing, it like brings people in, and they might get a message out of it more and be like, oh, these guys aren't so bad. These guys seem like chill people. They might have different views than me, but these are nice guys. And
the bigger you get, the more of these things you're going to have to do, and the more people are going to ask you more
you'll have to explain yourself.
Yeah. Do you find it difficult to do that?
I like rollerblading around certain things, but I think it's easier for me now than it was in the beginning, because when we first started doing it, I felt bad at it because I felt like I had to tell people exactly what I'm thinking, and lots of the times.
Oh, you've moved away from that.
Yeah, because I'm not sure what I'm thinking all the time. I'm keeping my mind open to a lot of possibilities and scenarios. I have some very core things that I believe in, like I think, you know, politically I'm very progressive. I'm all for everybody getting
just treating human beings with a base level of decency.
Exactly. Yeah. Like everybody should be treated fairly, and everybody should be able to do what it is they want to do as long as they're not like hurting somebody else. Yeah. And then people can say, well, it hurts me that someone's homosexual, and then it's like, well, that I'm not talking about that. Yeah, that's something different.
You're not talking about hurting feelings.
Yeah, I'm not talking about hurting feelings. I'm talking about like really doing harm to somebody, and don't do that. You know, like don't harm somebody. Just it's almost more about leading by example rather than really trying to put a statement out there. And in some ways, our thing could benefit from really just having like certain things to say, and everybody knows this and that, but that's just not really the type of people that we are.
Do you find though the switch from what you're doing before, you know, be it more singer-songwriting or the stuff with the Starlight Mints, to something that is like in the base of it, I mean, there's definitely a punk element to it, that affords you the ability to be more cathartic through music? To sort of release some of that tension?
Yeah, and say something.
You're not Billy Bragg, and you're not like, you know, Joe Strum or whatever, but just getting up on stage and playing a loud rock show, there's base level of catharsis in that.
I think what we are emitting is emotion more than really trying to make a point vocally, because, I mean, the truth is we grew up in a great, easy place to grow up. We all had parents that were very loving. They have been supportive of all the stuff that we wanted to do. That's why we're like here playing a show, and we put out records, and nobody was really forcing anything on me.
Your parents were cool with you just going and being a rock star?
Oh yeah, they hoped that, you know.
Really?
Yeah, my parents I'm the youngest too, but they were just as cool with my brothers doing that. I mean, they might have a different take on stuff because I'm not them, but for me, from my standpoint, they were very supportive of us in the arts and everything. They wanted us to be well-rounded. We, we'd play Little League, and then my mom would make sure that we were in like boys choir or in theater or something. So we had to do everything, and so I got a taste of a lot of stuff, and so if there's anything that we're really trying to push, it's just like it's an emotion. Seems like people that get into us, that's what they're getting out of it, is some type of emotional release that we help emit. And in some ways I think that we're emotional self-help rock. That's probably our genre, our subgenre.
There you go. That was Ryan Lindsey of Broncho. Recorded that at Elsewhere in Brooklyn, obviously during the soundcheck. Very fun conversation with him. They are one of my favorite recent bands. In fact, they put out one of my favorite records of 2018. Highly recommend you check them out. Start with Bad Behavior. Their latest record is as good a place to start as any. Thanks so much to him for taking the time. Thanks to Hector at Chromatic for helping to set up that conversation. Thanks to you guys as always for listening to the program. If you like the show, there are a number of ways to support us. You can rate and review us on iTunes, Google Podcasts. We're on Spotify and YouTube now. Like us on Facebook. If you have any feedback, it's rylcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Tumblr. That's rylcast.tumblr.com. That's the first and best place to get all of your RIYL related information. And that's about all we got for this week. So stick around because we are going to be back just about this time next week with another episode of RIYL.